The Affordable Care Act, which is now known as Obamacare, is sick. It needs help. The websites don't work, so people can't sign up for the new accounts. Terry.
Well, now the administration's trying to get the websites fixed before the mess gets even worse. Ephraim Graham has the story.
The Obamacare rollout has been an unmitigated disaster. The website, healthcare.gov, has been all but unusable, and members of both parties know it.
This is unacceptable. It has to be changed. But any system that deals with that many millions of people frequently does have a glitch. Again, this is unacceptable.
The president is addressing the website woes during a speech in the Rose Garden. The White House has already said it's been working around the clock to fix the site. And the Department of Health and Human Services announced Sunday it's bringing in tech experts from other government agencies and the private sector to try to fix the site. And Republicans remain critical of Obamacare itself. Senator Marco Rubio told CBN News' David Brody it hurts the economy and individual Americans.
It's an objection to a program, a massive expansion of government that is undermining the American dream for millions and millions of people. And by his own admission, because of the waivers he's granted and the changes he's unilaterally made, the president has admitted that Obamacare is full of failures.
Of the 7 million people projected to sign up for coverage, only a fraction, less than 500,000, have filed applications. And it's not clear how many have actually enrolled. Critics say that at this pace, there's no way the government can reach its target of 7 million enrollees by March, and it may have to delay the individual mandate. Angry Republicans are calling for Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius to testify at a hearing on Thursday. But so far, her office says she's unavailable. On Fox Sunday, Senator Rubio said Sebelius may have to step down.
There may come a point, now perhaps we're not there today, but there may come a point where in fact she will have to resign, largely because she's no longer has the credibility to do the job.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Well, folks, here's the game. They have to get a bunch of young people into those programs because the young people don't get sick as often. So as a result, they have to balance out the coverage from the older people who are signing up, the sick people who are signing up with healthy young people. And if the young people won't get in line and obey what the White House is demanding, then the whole system's going to crash. And they know it. It's a dirty little secret, and they won't admit how many have signed up because they know, but they're scared to tell. It is so pathetic. We mentioned the other day that only one person in the whole state of Delaware had actually become enrolled. And I think in some other state it was about 5. So we're looking at just a pathetic number of people who want to get involved in this mess. And if they don't get involved, it's going to crash. They have to drive the young people into this system. And the young people say, no, thank you. We'd rather pay the fine because it's cheaper than Obamacare. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. And believe you me, for somebody here at CBN, we had to redo our complete computer system. We went to a different technology and so forth, got it much better, but it took several years and a task force of very expert people working on it to bring the thing up into running. It was just a nightmare. That was just a tiny little system here in one organization. Think across the federal government trying to realign about 1/6 or so of the entire economy in a matter of a short period of time. It makes no sense. Terry, it's a disaster.
Well, you know, here's the other thing is when you talk about young people, they want to do things fast.
Oh, yeah.
When you get on that system, you're not enrolling, you're just applying. Then someone has to decide whether you qualify for that or not. So it's a process. It's not just going to be the young people who are not going to be happy with that. It's going to be lots of people.
They're not happy, but they've got to be on there. Otherwise, the demographics and the balance doesn't work. The whole economics of the program is based on having a lot of healthy people who don't draw benefits. That's what it's about. And it ain't going to work. Well, the White House is also taking a stand against spending cuts and the so-called sequester. The Treasury Secretary says this is going to hurt the country. That story from Washington. Here's John.
That's right, Pat. The Secretary of the Treasury, Jack Lew, says the government needs to stop the automatic spending cuts known as the sequester. Liu said on Meet the Press the president will keep up his efforts to either get rid of the cuts completely or at least reduce them. The cuts went into effect after the Democrats and Republicans could not reach an agreement on spending back in 2011. Liu says they're hurting the economy, but critics say the president's policies, including Obamacare, are slowing down economic growth. People in France don't like that country's high tax policies. In a poll reported in the Le Monde newspaper, 70% say taxes are excessive and 80% say the economic policy of Socialist President Hollande is misguided and inefficient. One banker tells the London Telegraph newspaper that people don't like to be treated like criminals just because they're successful. And he says this uncertainty in every aspect of the tax system means it is impossible to do business. You don't know what your future costs are or your customers. You can't buy, you can't sell, you can't hire, you can't fire. An economics professor tells the paper 1 out of 4 French university graduates wants to leave the country. Pat?
Well, they should. I was over there some years ago when they were telling me that in certain areas the tax on successful people is over 100%. So that was before Hollande and his soldiers. But Obama wants to make America look like Europe. Those managed economies in Europe that are dragging the economies down, forcing the terrible unemployment. Obama wants to make America that way. And this Obamacare is just one example of what European socialism will do to a country. John?
France and Mexico are demanding explanations from the U.S. following new spying allegations leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. European publications, including the Le Monde and the German magazine Der Spiegel, published reports that the NSA collected more than 70 million phone records from French citizens and that it hacked former Mexican President Felipe Calderon's email account. Earlier documents revealed the U.S. had also spied on current Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto before he was elected last year. France called in the U.S. ambassador to protest the spying reports. Well, the death toll is up to 185 after last Tuesday's massive earthquake in the central Philippines. CBN disaster relief teams are helping survivors who are trapped in remote areas, and villagers are happy that medical aid has come to them for the first time. Lucille Talusan has the story.
The earthquake crumbled sections of Minerva Acuram's home. Her son Renante says a trip to the doctor saved the family from death.
It's really a miracle. I'm really thankful to God. If we were home, my mother and my sisters would still be sleeping here in their rooms and would have been killed when our house collapsed.
Minerva suffers from heart palpitations and anxiety.
I am always dizzy and I feel so weak. I am thankful the trip to the doctor saved us, but I still feel the same and even feel worse because of the earthquake.
Minerva and other villagers are desperate for medical attention. The earthquake caused the town's hospital and bridge to collapse. That makes it almost impossible for villagers to get help at another hospital outside of town. Though access to these isolated areas is limited, CBN disaster relief teams endured difficult travel conditions to bring help to these desperate Filipinos.
Almost all of the houses here in the municipality of Loon have also been severely damaged by the earthquake. And that is why most of the families are living in makeshift tents outside their homes. And some of them are staying in these school grounds. And today, the CBN relief team has come here to conduct a medical mission. And the people here are very grateful because for the very first time, their medical needs are being cared for.
We feel relieved, even for a short while. And that matters so much to us.
Minerva is happy the doctors came to her and provided free medicines for her ulcer. A CBN counselor prayed for healing and invited her to trust Jesus.
Thank you very much for coming to us. You've made us feel that we are not alone. After the counselor prayed for me, I feel a big burden was lifted from my chest.
Most of the earthquake victims are suffering from dehydration, diarrhea, and skin disease because of lack of clean water. CBN disaster relief teams will work to meet that need and bring additional help in the days ahead. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Bohol, Philippines.
Pat, oftentimes when people see tragedies like these, they're just overwhelmed, wondering what they can do to help. People who are watching this program, Pat, what can they do to join in CBN's efforts to bring relief to the people in the Philippines?
Well, not just the Philippines, but the whole world. There are disasters taking place all the time. And we have disaster relief teams, and we have a disaster relief fund, which we use very judiciously to help people of tragedies. And if you want to participate in a compassionate activity, that would be the Disaster Relief Fund, CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia. You never know where it's going to happen, and you never know what the suffering is going to be, but it is unbelievable. It is unbelievable that these tragedies, you know, a vast majority of the people in this world live near the water, and well, there you go. And consequently, they are subject to typhoons, hurricanes, all kinds of disasters that come about from flooding, and we're there to help them. So, folks, you give us a call, 1-800-759-0700.
New Jersey is now the 14th state to recognize same-sex marriage. Newark Mayor and U.S. Senator-elect Cory Booker opened City Hall at midnight to perform some of the first ceremonies. Governor Chris Christie has fought gay marriage in the state. He asked the New Jersey Supreme Court to freeze a lower court's ruling in favor of same-sex marriage, but on Friday, the High Court ruled against him. Immediately following the decision, state municipalities began accepting applications for marriage licenses from gay couples. CBN programming in the Philippines is bringing thousands to Christ. The 700 Club Asia has been on the air there since 1995. It features testimonies and powerful ministry. Each month, the CBN Prayer Center in the Philippines receives thousands of calls and more than 100,000 text messages. Last month, more than 19,000 people received salvation and were referred to local churches. Well, you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.